but it really has been because all along the way, you've been willing to just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and I'm so grateful to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. As always, last episode when I interviewed the one, the only Evan Carmichael. I still cannot believe that Evan Carmichael was on the Business of Happiness, but he was. If you haven't listened to this episode, I highly recommend you go back and listen to episode number 37 with Evan Carmichael. He is the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. He is the galvanizer of incredible human beings. He promotes people to pursue their dreams and to serve. That's the name of his book that he's promoting right now, called Built to Serve. Excellent book. And if you're questioning what your purpose is and how you can put your purpose to work, I highly recommend it. It's a phenomenal book. And next time, we'll be talking to Becca Worthington, also an incredible guest. Once again, I feel so lucky to be a part of this incredible community where I can speak to experts in their field. Rebecca Worthington is speaking to us from the UK, and she is a grief and loss counselor. Really has some deep words of advice for us, and I highly recommend that next episode. And today we're talking about keep going. I have some experience this week I want to share with you, but I want to just start off this episode letting you know you are doing a great job and keep going. That is the theme of today's episode, and I'm going to share with you some insight of how having that attitude has really supported me in my success in business and in my striving for happiness in every day of my life. Before I get started, I do want to say welcome to our new Business of Happiness Hive members, this incredible community over on the private Facebook account. It's called the Business of Happiness Hive. Join us over there if this content is serving you. It's a great opportunity to find other resources and like-minded entrepreneurs, business leaders, leaders of their own dreams. Please welcome for me Nancy, Gwen, Rebecca, Jeff, Erica, Jackie, Maureen, Anne-Marie, Paola, hello Paola, and Day. I cannot wait to get to know each and one of you better. And so today we're talking about just keep going. It's fascinating to me how many people start out in business pursuits and then falter, find some negativity or some uncomfortable results or a perception of failure and then give up on their dreams. It blows my mind. And then I have weeks like this one in my own life where I get a very clear perspective on what that's like. And so this episode, I just want to dedicate to each and every one of you who is doing your best to keep pursuing your dreams. When I spoke to Evan last week on the episode, and he was talking about how incredible it would be if there was a world where each and every one of us was dedicated to serving one another. My question to him was about burnout and how we can end up giving so much of ourselves that we literally deplete ourselves in service to others. So many of my colleagues in healthcare and moms that I know do this on a routine basis. We just give and give and give until there's nothing left of ourselves to give. And that's really where the concept of self-care comes into place, and making sure you're nourishing and nurturing yourself so that there is more to give. And it was fascinating to hear Evan say that in a dream world, wouldn't it be amazing if we all were just giving and giving to one another and had the perspective of elevating and lifting one another up? So I thought, you know what? What better time, what better platform to remind each and every one of you, you are doing a great job. Keep going. Keep going. Let me be the cheerleader in the corner for you. Just keep going. We keep hearing all these memes, and I've written them on my Facebook page and on Instagram, that when you fall down, it's your resilience that is the determinant of your character. And it's true, but sometimes you just need a little voice in the corner, along the sidelines, saying you are doing a great job. Wherever you are doing a great job. This week for me, I had a couple of those moments where I just felt defeat rising inside of me. And one of the interesting aspects of when we see defeat or negativity, or we just want to give up, is, can we step outside of the fear? Can we step outside of the defensiveness or throwing your hands up in the air? Can we step outside of the self-blame and the exhaustion and just remind ourselves to have compassion and patience, whether it's with ourselves or with another person? Because interestingly, this week, what came up for me were several relationship issues that really touched me very deeply and kind of created these emotions inside of me that I couldn't ignore. And it's fascinating how relationships really are mirrors of ourselves. It's never about the other person, right? It's always about you, whether it's in business or in personal relationships or in family relationships or in love. Whenever you find yourself in a moment of frustration or defensiveness or heightened emotion in the negative emotion spectrum, it really is an indicator that there's something in there that you need to pay attention to, whether it's an old wound or an old trauma, an old hurt, maybe some self-doubt or shame or sadness. But it's always illuminating that there's something sticky that you haven't quite worked through. This happened clearly for me this week with my son. We got into it this week. There was an issue, and all of a sudden, this small little issue turned bigger and bigger, and the conversations that we got into became more and more heated. And I'm sure parents of teenagers out there know what I'm talking about, and oh my gosh, I couldn't respect my mother and my father more. Isn't that funny? As you start to parent teenagers yourself, you realize what saints your parents were for putting up with what they did. So thank you, Mom and Dad. But it's fascinating to me because as these conversations became more contentious, I became more defensive and more aggressive. And when I gave myself the opportunity to sit back with that knowledge and almost step outside of myself and look at it as an indicator or a mirror of something that I still needed to work on, it very clearly reflected to me some interesting conversations I've had with myself in the past. And one of those is my worthiness as a mom. Isn't that fascinating? I thought I dealt with this years and years ago. I thought that I had dealt with, discomfort about my validity and my worthiness of being a great mother. But really, challenging teenagers bring up these old stories and these old wounds all over again. And it's when we start to feel that discomfort, or maybe it was an interaction that you didn't love the way you handled it. Instead of becoming defensive or blaming, right? We can easily jump to judgment or blame in an uncomfortable conversation. Instead of allowing that to bury you, can we look at those moments when we jumped to judgment or jumped to blame and say, wow, that's fascinating that I went there and I didn't hold compassion. The real honorable way to look at life and look at ourselves and look at our relationships is, can we hold compassion and forgiveness, not just for the other person, but for ourselves? It was very healing for me this week when I lay in bed thinking about these conversations and feeling worse and worse about myself, about some things that I said out of anger or defensiveness, and then realizing, wow, I'm just on this journey too. I can forgive myself. And even apologize, not only to him for the words that I used, but to myself. And the same thing happened to me at work this week. There was an incident with a patient that I became very concerned about the way another practitioner was managing this case. And immediately my defensiveness comes up. And I realized in chatting with this mom and this little girl that I was so concerned and fearful for how this patient was being treated by another practitioner that I allowed my emotions to get in the way. But instead of getting upset with myself about it, how can I look at that moment in time? How can I look at that interaction and see it as an indicator? Instead of defending my behavior, instead of defending my words that I used during the conversation, can I look at it as an indicator of perhaps something that I need to work on, something I need to heal? I think this is enormously freeing when we give ourselves permission to grow, permission to look at our feelings, our relationships, our interactions, our growth in business and in our personal development, and give ourselves permission to continue to grow. And in order to give ourselves permission to continue to grow, we have to be able to forgive, not just ourselves, but others as well. The word honor, I love this word honor. And at the beginning of the year, it was actually my word for the year. I don't know if any of you saw this on social media or have done this before in the past, but there often is a challenge of choosing a word that represents something that you want to pursue in the year. And for me, the word that came up was honor. And I've been thinking about this word honor and how supportive it can be for other people when you tell them, I honor you. I honor your journey. I honor the work that you do. I honor your values. I honor and respect you. And I thought, that word honor has so many other words that build it up, that are subwords under that idea of honor. And those are things like respect, patience, compassion is a big one when you talk about honoring someone or honoring a concept, serenity, and for me, the inner integrity. Where does your integrity lie? And when you think, how can I honor others and honor myself? How can I honor this journey that I'm on? When Evan Carmichael was talking to me about how important it is that each of us pursue our dreams, and what would it be like if we lived in a world where we all checked in on ourselves and thought, what is my purpose here? Who do I want to serve? And how can I serve better? And then to be brave enough to pursue that idea of what your purpose is. The same word came up for me is honor. How can we honor that journey, that dream? And that's where I come right back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this podcast episode is I'm here for you and I'm here to encourage you. I honor you on your journey. And yes, there will be times when you'll stumble and fall as a parent, as a human, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. There will be moments when we get into conversation with other people, conversation with ourselves that illuminates or mirrors for us wounds or traumas or sadnesses that we need to heal. And one of those might be worthiness. One of those might be doubt of whether or not you can keep going. But the only way to find out is to keep going. The only way to know if you could ever accomplish your dreams, if you could ever reach your dreams, is to keep pursuing. And therein lies the resilience that we're always talking about. But it takes that moment of honoring your own journey. When we take a snapshot in time of who we are, if you imagine in this moment where you sit or stand, or if you're driving in your car, or wherever you are, if I were to take a snapshot of who you are right now, that same person that you are right in this moment is not who you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last week. You in this moment are completely an amalgamation of all those previous moments. If we were to look at a snapshot from 10 years ago, that also is not who you are. But who you are is this combination of all these experiences and journeys and growth that you've had over your whole lifetime that led up to now. Who you are is not a snapshot in time. It's this whole experience that you've been on. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine just for a moment honoring that? Honoring that. That even whatever your dream is that you're pursuing, whether it's a house or a family or a business or a contribution to society or just a calling in you to serve in a greater way, just know that that is not just from this moment in time, but it really has been because all along the way you've been willing to just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And there absolutely will be days, weeks, hell, there might even be years where you feel stuck in the mud, where you need some extra support or resources. And once again, let me be the person to tell you, you are doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Mama. You're doing a great job, Dad. Wherever you are doing a great job, and keep going. I honor you, and I am so grateful, as always, to be on this journey with you. And as always, I'm so grateful to you for having the greater perspective to think things through a little differently, to see things a little bit differently, and to imagine that you are worthy of this journey of happiness and worthy of this journey of finding purpose in every single day. So as we go through with the next week, keep going. You've got this. You've got this. You are not alone, and you can do it. Remember that relationships are just mirrors. Occurrences and events that you feel sensitive towards are just mirrors. They're just reflections of little things inside us that we still either need to work through, or indicators of great passion within us that we really want to focus on. And let that be a continual fuel for your purpose and for the pursuit of your dream. Thank you again for joining me. And remember, as always, today is going to be a great day. Bye-bye.